Happy Selection Sunday. Selection Sunday. Say that 3 times fast, Harbin.
Southern Succotash.
It is a Selection Sunday, one of the greatest days of the year, one of the best days of the year. I rank this as far as the NCAA pecking order number 2 behind Thursday/Friday games, which is coming up here in a few days. 2 of the great days of the year. If you have to work, everybody always finds a way to watch. That's what the boss button's for on the March Madness website. But happy Selection Sunday to everybody listening. Negative Niece, joined by Big Montana and Harb. We're just going to go right into it. We got a lot to talk about. Tennessee lost in the SEC tournament, 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. Could have 3 different potential matchups in the first 2 rounds. So let's just get right into it. Tennessee lost on Friday to Mississippi State in Nashville in the SEC tournament. Pretty disappointing effort. What was your all's thoughts on the game on Friday?
You want to start, Montana, or you want me to talk about it?
I'll start. It's fine. Thought I'm getting my gallery view here so I can see your all's facial reactions. The slow starts for me are very concerning. They interviewed Rick Barnes there at the 3-minute media timeout or whatever it was, 12-minute, whatever you want to call it. He said, we got to get going, and we will. And it just seemed like we never got going. I think that's a really bad matchup for us. Their big man down low kind of owned the day, and they just didn't miss shots too. It reminded you a lot of the effort and everything. Kind of reminded you a lot of the North Carolina game earlier in the season. It wasn't Tennessee basketball. I think we all could agree on that. And it was just like the North Carolina game without the comeback. I'm not. I would rather us lose on the first day as to play 2 more games and lose on Championship Sunday and be tired. You know what I mean? So if you're going to lose in the tournament, the first day is the time to lose it, especially if you've already got a 2 seed pretty much in the bag. So I don't think we were hurting anyway. I honestly don't think. I mean, if we won the tournament, we probably would have been the 1 seed. I don't see how you couldn't give us that. But it's a pretty hard thing to do. I think, Nathan, you sent the text about, to win 3 games in this tournament and then turn around and win, 6 more? Winning 9 games is a feat in itself. Now, granted, if you get that 1 seed, your first 2 rounds are more than likely going to be cupcakes. I don't want to say cupcakes because anything can happen, but you're not facing really tough talent the first weekend. But it was disappointing in itself. I think that just the last 2 games, I don't know if the Vols are in a slump because the games were kind of meaningless because everything was wrapped up and, whatever. I know we cut the score to 5 or whatever in that Mississippi State game, but I just didn't understand why some of the starters were still on the court. I mean, twisted ankle, torn ACL, anything can happen. I wasn't necessarily a fan of that, but
I remember you saying that, and I noticed I was watching the end of Houston and Iowa State last night, and Kelvin Sampson left most of his guys in there at the end of the game. It is interesting. I don't know what the reasoning is behind that, to be honest.
I'm just like, you can get a dang hamstring, twisted ankle, high ankle sprain, MCL, ACL, concussion. I mean, just at practice, you know what I mean? But I don't know. It's over with. We're 2 seed, play Thursday night. Here we go.
Harbin, how are you feeling after the disappointing loss on Friday?
It was the worst game of the season. I don't think there's any sugarcoating it. We played like shit. They looked uninspired. The effort was lacking. It looked like it didn't help that we couldn't throw it in the ocean, but it's extremely concerning for a team that prides themselves on what the Microsoft Excels of the world call a top 3 defense. And you allow a team like Mississippi State to shoot 63% from the field. And it wasn't because they were hot, it was because they got to the rim however they wanted to.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they shot the lights out against us. They whooped our ass. Like, let's just go ahead and call it like it is.
How many layups were in that game or backdoor cuts with nobody guarding somebody? 10?
Yeah, it was a lot. I watched the first half. And I had to be at work at 3, so I was listening to the second half on the radio. And around probably the 10-minute mark in the second half, I don't know if I've ever done this in my life for a meaningful Tennessee game. I turned it off, started listening to music. I was over it. If they didn't care, I didn't either. Top deal. I know I'm being extremely harsh. I'm sure they do care, but just judging off of what I saw, his worst game of the year, felt like didn't really give a shit. Really got punched in the mouth and then just couldn't recover from it. And then when that cat from Mississippi State had that posterizer in the first half to go up like 34-18 or whatever it was, at that point I knew the game was over. There was no coming back from that. Momentum was clearly on their side. Hats off to them. They played a great game, had a great game plan against us. We couldn't do anything with it. Now, on the positive side of that, which I'm trying to be positive here, you get 2 to 3 days extra rest that you wouldn't have if you lose in the championship game or even win it. And also, you've got 14 pissed off young men that are ready to go prove something because they've lost 2 games in a row. At least I hope they're pissed off. They should be, if they have any pride and have any aspirations of going deep in this tournament. So that's the positives I have from it. Hopefully they're fired up. You learn from every game, not just losses, even wins. So hopefully they can figure something out and come out with a fire underneath their rear end and see what we can do.
Yeah, I agree with all those points. I think the most disappointing thing I saw on Friday was the I don't want to call it a lack of effort, but it just looked like they were going through the motions. And I don't know if they didn't want to be there or didn't care if they won or not, because honestly, after Friday, it really doesn't matter what they do from there on out, because the tournament selection committee sets the brackets on Friday, on Saturday, unless something happens like yesterday where you have an Oregon or an NC State winning that takes bids away. So honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't really hurt us because you're losing to a team that is an 8 seed in the tournament, I think, 8 or a 9.
Yeah.
But it's just the way they, just kind of uninspired, just going through the motions type deal. And I guess that's the thing that bothers me the most about it, because you've got a team that's got some veterans that have been here a while, that have come up short several times. And you would think that they wouldn't want to have that feeling again. And obviously the SEC tournament's not the end goal here. I guess it was just disappointing that it just looked like they just didn't want to be there. And I'm not saying they didn't want to be there, but that's what it looked like. And I've heard several others say that, comment on it, and just some of the lackadaisical play. I mean, I think there was 2 plays that kind of summed up the whole day. One of them was a dunk at the end of the game at Dalton Connect. I mean, Mississippi State just was like, here, just dunk it. And he went in and missed it. And then he had a turnover right at the end of the first half, bringing the ball up, and just threw it right to a Mississippi State player. And I was just like, well, and he just was looking around after it happened like, what the hell's going on here? And I don't know. It was just one of those days. They weren't shooting well. And The only concern I have from these last two games is the slow start offensively from Tennessee. I put some notes together before we get into the NCAA tournament talk, if I can find them. Tennessee against Kentucky came out very slow, but not as slow as they did against Mississippi State. Well, I've got them here somewhere and I can't find them. But anyway, here they are. First half, this is first half field goal percentage in the past two games. 20 of 68, 29%. First half 3-point field goal percentage the last two games. 8 of 33, 24%. Here's some other putrid offensive numbers from the past two games. The rest of the team, not counting Dalton Connect, is 29 of 90 from the field, 32%. Not anywhere near their season average. Triple J and Santiago Vescovi are combined last two games, 3 of 25 from the field for a combined 12 points. We've talked about those two on this show quite a bit this year, especially Triple J. I don't know what's going on with those guys. We're not asking for a lot out of them. 6 to 8 to 10 points a game. And they're not even doing that right now. I know Triple J had 8 or 10 against Kentucky. But they're just not doing enough. And I feel like I tweeted this the other night or said it on the recap show I did on Friday. I think Rick Barnes needs to look. I'm not saying bench him, but he needs to look at Vescovi and his role heading into this tournament because he is not doing any. He is so limited right now on the offensive end. He could break out at any point. I know that. But this has not been something that's just happened these past two games. This has been a year-long thing with him. It started in November, and we cut him some slack because his grandmother passed, and he was gone to his homeland to be with his family, and he came back and went to Maui, back across the ocean to Chapel Hill. A lot going on there, okay? But that was 4 months ago, and it's still going on. I just don't know. You know, if he makes 2 or 3 shots a game, this is a totally different team. And it's early. They're missing and it's not just him either. The past 2 games, they have missed so many open shots, this team has. I mean, you say what you will about Rick Barnes and his offense, but they're getting open looks. And I know last year they had a lot of open looks because probably teams left them open. That's not the case this year with Dalton Connect and they do. There's more focus on other areas. So they're just missing open shots that they've got to make. And if they make some of these early on, it changes the tone of the game. And, Friday, they just didn't do it. And Mississippi State was the aggressor and capitalized on it.
I think that Dalton Connect needs to concentrate on driving to the basket just to get into a rhythm of handling the basketball and just sending a message early, more so than shooting one from 10 feet behind the line, because we all know he can do that. And although both are demoralizing, but if he can get to the rim, somebody else is going to be open. You can pass it out. Adu's there to clean it up. But it wasn't just, the veterans that didn't show up. Nobody could stay in front of Mississippi State and play defense on Friday. I mean, Meshack was getting blown by. Ziegler was getting blown by. I mean, Ziegler didn't have any points until when?
He ended up with 20, but at one point in the game, he was 0 for 7 from the field.
Yeah, like it took him a while to get on the board. And the mistakes are over. There's no fixing it. Rick Barnes said that. There's no more fixing. It's sudden death now. So you got to leave it all out there.
Biggest thing that I think of with Vescovi, obviously he has been very poor on the offensive end this season, especially in the scoring category. But for a guy to be pretty much our number one option for 3 straight seasons and then transition into a role in his final year, a COVID year at that, to where he goes from taking 15, 16 shots a game to where he takes 4 or 5. As a shooter, like that's going to affect you, you know? Like it's a lot harder to get into a rhythm when you only shoot 4 or 5 times a game. With that being said, I mean, he's been way off. It's not like they're rattling in and out. But that's got to affect your confidence, your rhythm, all that nonsense. But also at the same time, he's playing pretty decent defense. He seems to make the correct and or safe decision damn near every time he has the ball. I mean, he makes turnovers. I mean, everybody does. But he makes good decisions with the basketball. Most of the time when he shoots, it's a good shot unless the shot clock's winding down. He's got to throw it up. And on top of that, when he's on the court, his teammates trust him with the ball, and he's like having a second coach out on the floor. Like he's always directing traffic. He is our floor general. I mean, Zakai is a great point guard. Don't get me wrong, but Vescovi runs the show. Obviously, he doesn't have the stats to prove that, but his importance for this team goes beyond his shooting numbers. Obviously, we need him to knock down a couple shots in tight games or like Mississippi State game or any game really. But I disagree with looking in a different direction for the tournament when it comes to Vescovi. Now, for instance, if you bring in Jordan Gainey early instead of him and he's hot, obviously keep him in. I mean, ride the hot hand for sure. But Vescovi is too important to have out there, regardless if he's shooting well or not, for you to not have him out there. That's just my personal opinion. Feel free to tell me I'm wrong.
No, I don't disagree with that. I mean, he does. He makes plays on the defensive end of the court. He's another coach out there on the court. But he is right now. If he can't make a shot, he is limited on the offensive end. I'm not saying bench him and not play him at all. I'm just saying, does Jemiah Mashack need a few more minutes than he's getting? Absolutely. I think we all agree on that.
Yeah.
This is something, I mean, I'm going to go with Rick Barnes on this one. He's, like I said.
Mashack's got to knock down open shots too.
He does. No, he does. He does.
He's spotty.
Yeah. I mean, he does. And that's something he has improved on this year. But, career-wise, he's not at the percentage that Vescovi is. But something to think about because something's way off with Vescovi's shot right now. I mean, he shot a couple on Friday that barely grazed the rim. And of course, he wasn't the only one. Ziegler shot one off the side of the dang backboard. I don't know what was going on. It kind of reminded me, Harb, you may not remember this, Big Montana, you may, when the SEC tournament was always in the Georgia Dome. Everybody always complained, well, we're playing in the Dome. It's hard to shoot. Tennessee would go down there and they would have good teams. They would always be the one seed out of the East. And they'd go down there and they'd struggle. I mean, even Chris Lofton then went down there and struggled. And they would always say, well, that's the Dome. They can't shoot in the Dome. They're not in a dome anymore. They're in a professional arena, and like they play in Knoxville. And I don't know what it was. I'm just going to chalk it up. They just had a bad day, and then they got they looked like they got really frustrated, didn't know what to do. It was a thing that kind of bothered me too. Was they just looked all out of sorts, and with a team with this many veterans on it that's been through it, like, how do you get out of sorts like that? I guess it can happen to anybody, but it was just a frustrating game. But I've said it on here a bunch. I'm not too concerned with the SEC tournament. I was a little frustrated Friday with some of the things I saw, but I have confidence in this team to fix it as they head into the next week, because it's a totally different season now.
I understand trying to chalk it up to it was a bad game, but brother, it's mid-March. You have a bad game, you're done. And thankfully we had that one safety net because it was the SEC tournament. But we lay a stinker like that again, or anywhere near that. If we play like that, we'll get beat first round. But
oh yeah,
if we have anything close to that, we're going home. We cannot do that. Cannot do that. Again.
And let's be honest, Tennessee was not the only team that
No,
had
it
issues this weekend.
it
This
it
was one of the
it made it
craziest
it made
conference
it so
tournaments.
much easier when Kentucky lost, and the Kentucky fans on Twitter that were making fun of us for losing to Mississippi State, and they get beat by 10. Oh, it was great. I loved it.
Funny thing about that is there's a couple that comes in. They're both UK grads. They're both from Kentucky. Despite all of that, they're great people. I'm good friends with them. And they came in right after the Tennessee game, and the husband was talking that cash. And, I just put my head down. I was like, yeah, I was taking it because I didn't have anything else to do. Well, then later that night, obviously, Kentucky got beat. And the first thing I did Sunday morning, or whatever night that was, Saturday morning, when I woke up, I texted him and I let him hear it back. And I so let him know. I said, that's why you wait to talk shit until after your team plays in a tournament. So,
I mean, didn't they lose to State earlier in the season?
Yeah, I think so.
I think they did. So
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, it was, you look around, not even just the SEC, but around the country, 3 of the top 4 seeds lost in the SEC tournament. And then you had Houston lose by 30 in the Big 12 title game. You had North Carolina lose to 10 seed NC State in the ACC title game. You had Purdue lose in the semifinals to 5 seed Wisconsin. And then you had Illinois have to hang on to beat Wisconsin this afternoon. It was crazy. I mean, Arizona lost in the semis out in the Pac-12. So it was one of the crazier conference tournament weekends I've seen or that I can recall. I just don't remember this many top teams losing in their conference tournaments like this.
I personally think there's too many teams in the conference tournaments. I think the bottom 4 should just go to the house, and then we finish this on Saturday.
I wonder if you might see that moving forward with the conferences getting so big that they, like SEC in baseball, they only take 12.
Yeah.
The bottom 2 don't go.
That's enough.
A little different sport, but
yeah, give the top four seeds the bye, and then take, I don't know, the top 12 teams or whatever.
I wish that the SEC didn't play on Sunday, but I think they're there on Sunday because of TV.
Well, obviously it does nothing for your seeding in the other tournament.
It really doesn't. I mean, if you look at, Auburn won 3 games this weekend and is still a 4 seed and got put in UConn's bracket. So
yeah,
they've said it for the last couple of years. It doesn't matter, and I'll give it to them. They stuck with it. I mean, they didn't favor anybody, for what happened in the conference tournaments. Maybe if you lost on Thursday or Friday, they did. But I don't think Tennessee was really punished at all for losing on Friday. Because I think we were the number 6 seed overall.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think if you beat Mississippi State, and then even if you lose to Auburn, I think you're the 1 seed out west, especially with North Carolina losing to NC State. I really do. I think you just had to win 1 game if you wanted that 1 seed.
See,
I'm surprised that Iowa State didn't jump North Carolina.
See, I'm not, because they're not even looking at these Saturday games, though. That's the thing. You got to look at, like, if Tennessee won on Friday, what they did on Saturday or Sunday wouldn't necessarily matter at that point. I think on paper, Tennessee has a better resume than North Carolina, but for some reason, after North Carolina beat Duke last weekend, they jumped Tennessee. I didn't quite understand that one, but if you look at them side by side, and Arizona, which we did last week, Tennessee, I think, is a better on paper team. But
the only thing Tennessee was 9-7 in quad 1 wins, and North Carolina was 9-3. North Carolina obviously
it was close, yeah.
North Carolina obviously played less quad 1 teams, but their record, I guess, was better. But I don't know.
Yeah,
it just makes me go. I know you're tired of hearing this, but it makes me go back when we start talking about losing to Mississippi State and South Carolina the first time, and losing to Texas A&M. And those games do come back and bite you in the ass in the end, man. You got to win those. if you're going to lose to Kentucky once and lose to Alabama, of course we didn't. But what I'm saying is, like, you got to beat who you're supposed to beat always. You can't slip up in those games.
I mean, that's true, but everybody had those games this year, so it really kind of washed out. North Carolina was 9-3 in quad one games. Tennessee was 8-7.
Yeah.
North Carolina in quad two. See, this was the difference for me. North Carolina in quad two was 7-4. Tennessee was 5-1.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
The ACC's trash. It's trash as shit right now. Anyway,
yeah, they're not. They're not the ACC that we grew up with.
No,
not even close.
So let's move on. NCAA tournament. Tennessee gets a 2 seed. We all expected. They're going to Charlotte, North Carolina, in the Spectrum Center, not Time Warner Cable Arena, like I said last week on the show. They just released the game times while we were talking here. Tennessee will play Thursday night. I'm thankful for this game time. I know a lot of people may not, but 9:20 p.m. on TNT, taking on the St. Peter's Peacocks. And if you've heard that name before, it's because they beat Kentucky 2 years ago as a 15 seed. This is a totally different team than played Kentucky a couple years ago. I looked them up, and I was on the Hoop Southbound podcast before we jumped on and recording ours. They are pretty atrocious offensively. They were the 5 seed in the MAAC conference. They were 19-13 overall, 12-8 in the conference. Won the conference tournament as a 5 seed. So they got hot here at the end, but a pretty good defensive team. Their numbers defensively are top 100 in most categories, but their offensive numbers are pretty low. They're pretty near the bottom in a lot of major offensive categories.
39.7 field goal percentage, the worst in the MAC conference.
Yeah, it's not good. They're not very good offensively. Their best win of the year was against Fairfield, and that came in the tournament. Tennessee has a series history here. Tennessee is 1-0 against St. Peter's. They won 54-40 in 1984 at Stokely.
Nice.
BPI has Tennessee 98% chance to win. Last betting odds I saw, Tennessee favored by 19.5 points. So I think what we can do here is just pick the Midwest bracket, and then we can talk about, any other things that we see around the other regions. But so before we get into it, Harbin, you raised your hand. You have a question, so I'll allow it.
Not necessarily a question. Just want to run over a couple things. I went through their schedule. They're 19-13. They won 3 conference games to get there. But notable games, just games that I thought that they played somebody halfway decent or with name recognition. In November, they played Seton Hall, lost by 11. In December, they played Rutgers and got beat 71-40. Yes, Rutgers.
The Rutgers.
Yes. And their most notable win, I don't know if this team is as good as Fairfield, but their coach is Rick Pitino. Iona. They beat Iona. Shit. They beat Iona 69-57 in like January or something.
You do realize that Rick Pitino is not at Iona anymore, right?
Well, I obviously didn't realize that, or I wouldn't have said it.
He's at St. John's now.
That's right. Damn it, I didn't know that. Former coach of Iona.
What?
It stays in their blood.
What?
I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
He about got ejected the other night.
Yes, he did.
It's been a long weekend.
He's fired up.
Also, I want to do a little segment. If you know the answer, don't blurt it out. But let's play a game where we guess what state St. Peter's is in. Do y'all know the answer, both of y'all?
No.
I do.
All right. Montana, you and I are both going to guess.
Okay.
My guess, just off rip, is Pennsylvania.
I'm going to go Florida, St. Petersburg.
Harbin's close.
Sorry.
You don't have to apologize.
I was also context clues because they're in the MAC.
I'm Googling it just to be sure I knew, but they are where do you think they're at?
I
They're
said
not
Pennsylvania.
that's not the MAC. This is the
Oh,
MAAC.
it's the MAC.
Man,
Mid Atlantic Athletic Conference, I think is what that is.
I don't go by conference alignment because I mean
That's true.
the
I'm pretty
ACC is just ridiculous.
I'm pretty sure they're in New Jersey or New York. Let's look it up.
That checks out.
I just went for Florida.
All right. St. Peter's University is a private Jesuit university in Jersey City, New Jersey. Founded in 1872.
Damn Jezebel.
So
Yep.
when you get I remember this from a couple years ago when they beat Kentucky. Somebody posted this. I'll have to see if I can find it. They put this team just beat Kentucky. Look at their gym compared to Rupp Arena. So Rupp Arena is a 24,000 seat Thompson Bowling top. And it looked like St. Peter's was playing in Jim Williams Gymnasium over here in Carter.
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably about that many people. Seriously, if you look it up, it's kind of
fun fact. I bought a St. Peter's T-shirt, Peacock T-shirt after they beat Kentucky. And I thought about wearing it tonight, but I didn't.
Did you see the tweet St. Peter's put out? It was Wesley Snipes holding a gun, crying, and he said their caption said, "I'm sorry, Tennessee," because we always had like a love affair after they beat Kentucky. So I responded with the Obi-Wan Kenobi, "You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you." After he chopped all of his limbs off. Did you know I didn't get this thrown out on the Hoop Southbound podcast because I didn't see it in time, but Zakai Ziegler's brother is a guard for St. Peter's, Armani Ziegler, and he actually plays.
Yeah.
So Ziegler's going to get to play against his brother. That's really cool. Just throwing that out there. Awesome story.
I didn't know that until I saw it in the text thread with us earlier. I wonder if he used to sneak on trains and stuff too.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah. I got so tired of hearing that story.
So do we think St. Peter's gives Tennessee any trouble? I mean, is there any cause for concern here? I know they beat Kentucky a couple years ago as a 15 seed, but I honestly, after looking them up, I don't think this is the same top team that Kentucky played a couple years ago. Now they've won a few games here in a row to get to this point, so that's something to be said for that. But y'all have any concerns going into this game that Tennessee might trip up and lose? I think there's always a concern, but because it's March, but does it happen? Harbin, I'll start with you.
I mean, I doubt it. I mean, you never know. It's like you said. But just to keep it real, I mean, this team's not very good. Going into their conference tournament, they were 16-13. They started playing some of their best ball at the end, which they're riding a hot streak. But we're pissed off coming out of the tournament, I mean, you lose to Kentucky. Yeah, I hope we are. I mean, I would assume so. Just competitive spirit, playing at that high of a level. You lose to Kentucky on senior day. You chalk that up as a meaningless game. Whatever. You can argue that. I disagree with that, but I digress. Then you get absolutely throttled by Mississippi State. If you lose that in a close game on some BS, whatever, we got dominated. When you're as good as we are and you have as many upperclassmen as we do, I think pride kicks in. And you're like, we're not going out like this. We're too damn good to go out like this. Be honest with you, I think we cover. I think we handled them. And I hope we get matched up with Virginia. Texas is super athletic. I don't think it's a great matchup for us in the round of 32. I don't really want to start looking ahead too much, but I'd much rather play Virginia or Colorado State than Texas. But I
Yep.
do think we beat St. Peter's in the 25 to 30 range.
Big Montana. Any concerns on this game from you?
No, I don't know if we cover or not because, I mean, these are the teams that come out and they have nothing to lose. They get, a free trip, and of course everybody gets a free trip, but it's something that it's huge for their school. It's a little bitty school. These are the teams that, that's why it's called March Madness. But I definitely seen it being a 15-point game. And I just hope Tennessee comes out and plays like Tennessee can. If they don't, if they play against Mississippi State, it's going to be a damn rock fight. But I don't see that happening. I think we win. I don't know if we cover or not, but I think we win that game pretty easily.
I agree. I think we move on to the round of 32 to take on, we'll look at potential opponents here in just a second, but you've got Texas sitting there above us waiting to play Colorado, the winner of Colorado State and Virginia in a playing game. A little surprised Virginia got in, especially after some of the teams that won yesterday, NC State, Oregon, some of those teams got in.
They had five automatic bids this year that took away from those bubble teams. Last year there was only 2. It's a big difference.
Yeah, it was a huge bubble year. I mean, it was kind of crazy to be. I mean, it goes back to what we said a minute ago about conference tournaments. They were kind of crazy this year, but it's college basketball as a whole. I think that's kind of what you'll see in the tournament. I was watching some of the predictions before I got on these podcasts earlier, and a lot of the guys were picking 1 and 2 seeds to get to the Final Four, and that's easy to do. But man, last year was the first year we didn't have a 1 seed in the Final Four ever. Does it happen again? I think it's legit shot that it happens again with the way college basketball is. So the Vols will have, after they take down St. Peter's, after they take down the Peacocks, we'll have 3 options that we may play: the number 7 seed Texas Longhorns, or either the number 10 seed Virginia Cavaliers out of the ACC, or the 10 seed Colorado State Rams out of the Mountain West Conference. Virginia and Colorado State will play on Tuesday in Dayton in one of the first 4 games. Whoever wins that advances on to play Texas and Charlotte on Thursday. So who do we got? Texas versus Tennessee, or Virginia or Charlotte? What are you thinking?
You mean Colorado State?
We're definitely not playing Charlotte.
Or, sorry, Colorado State. We're playing
Texas.
in Charlotte.
Texas.
So you think Texas beats either one of those 2 teams?
Yeah.
I'm leaning Texas, but I'm hoping that Virginia beats Colorado State and then topples over Texas. I just think we match up better with Virginia. They play pretty good defense, but they can't score in a whorehouse. And like I said earlier, Texas is very athletic. I think they could give us some issues. I'm leaning Texas, and I still think we're better than them, obviously. They're a good team. They're not great. But, yeah, I'm hoping for Virginia, but I'm leaning Texas. It's probably going to be the Barnes Bowl. Roman numerals.
So let's look through the Midwest. Tennessee's in the Midwest bracket, for those who don't know. So up top in the 1 seed, you've got Purdue, and I don't know who they play. I don't think it matters at this point. But I think we all would. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it does now because it's happened twice. They lost last year. So, and then you got, this is an intriguing game to me, and I just recently found out about this team, but Utah State is the 8 seed, TCU's the 9 seed. Utah State didn't even have much of a team after their coach left this summer. They only had 4 scholarship players, used the transfer portal. I think they won like 15 or 16 games in a row in the middle of the season. But there in this bracket, you've got Gonzaga is the 5 seed taking on 12 seed Will Wade's McNeese State. Interesting matchup there. And then you've got a banged up Kansas Jayhawks team taking on Samford in the 4-13 game. You've got 6 seed South Carolina out of the SEC taking on 11 seed Oregon. And then right above Tennessee, you've got the 3 seed Creighton Blue Jays taking on the Akron Zips. Any upsets? Y'all see any upsets in any of those games first round? Or are we going chalk?
This bracket, in my opinion, has potential for a ton of chaos. The two in particular that I'm looking at is Gonzaga versus the artist formerly known as McNeese State. With Will Wade, that scumbag. He is a scumbag, but he can coach ball. Mostly the reason I'm thinking this is not the Gonzaga that we know, or at least for the last 10 years. They struggled in a 2-team conference. I don't even think they won it. I think St. Mary's ended up winning it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, they did. They beat Gonzaga in the championship game.
Yeah. Easily could see McNeese winning this game, especially considering Gonzaga's track record in March for the most part. And the other one I have, I love Oregon against South Carolina. Oregon's hot. They're a pretty good ball team. And South Carolina has kind of played above board all year long, which credit to them. But they got absolutely throttled by Auburn again. And I don't know. I really, really like Oregon in that matchup, South Carolina. So I think we will see at least 2 double-digit seeds in the round of 32 in the Midwest bracket.
Big Montana. What do you think?
I kind of think this one's going to be chalk, just to be honest with you. For the first 2 rounds anyway. I haven't necessarily followed any of the other teams that are in this, except for Purdue. I guess I've watched them. So I don't know.
You've watched South Carolina play.
Yeah, South Carolina. I mean, but they're not the underdog, right?
Not seed wise. We don't know about Vegas, but
right.
Yeah, I was on the Hoop Southbound podcast earlier, and 2 of the 4 on there picked McNeese State over Gonzaga. They felt like Gonzaga was overseeded. Everybody picked Kansas contingent on their health. You know, they're a little banged up right now. If they're at full strength, I don't think they lose to Samford, but Samford could cause a little bit of a hiccup for them. I took South Carolina over Oregon, but I think that could be a interesting matchup. I wouldn't be shocked if Oregon beat South Carolina, but I think Creighton handles Akron and advances on. So it could be. I mean, one of the guys on there had, I think in the Sweet 16, he had Samford in the round of 32 taking on McNeese State. So a 12-13 matchup in the round of 32. He had Gonzaga and Kansas both going down. So
going back to South Carolina, Oregon, ESPN's matchup indicator has South Carolina as a 53% chance to win. And South Carolina, according to ESPN's sportsbook, is a 1.5 point favorite.
I figured that would be a close one.
I like Oregon. I'm calling that right now. They're playing very good ball. In their last 5 games, they have split with Colorado, beat UCLA, Utah, and Arizona to get the Pac-12 crown. And I think they were kind of underrated all year, to be honest with you. I think they kind of stumbled early, but I think they're a good ball team. And I think they can, I think they definitely can beat South Carolina, but I think they're going to. And personally, I have Oregon beating Creighton after that. I have Oregon in Sweet 16.
Whoa. Okay. So that sets up my next question. You've got Creighton losing to Oregon in the round of 32. So Oregon would advance on, correct?
Correct.
So would they play Tennessee or Texas? Can we beat Texas? Will we beat Texas?
Why you gotta put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby?
We gotta face our destiny.
Well, considering the last time I predicted Tennessee to win a tournament, they lost their first game. I have us going down in the round of 32 to the Texas Longhorns.
Is this one of your mind games or is this legit?
Just let me finish my
Okay. Sorry. Continue.
Like we said, Texas plays hard. They're athletic. They can get after it on defense. They can get out in transition, guard play, post play. I mean, it's a typical Texas team with a little less talent, really. They're huge. They're fast. Yeah. If we play Texas, we're going home first weekend. We're not making it out of the Spectrum Center. And there's going to be a lot of pissed off fans, in a little over a week.
I will be one of them. I promise you.
Yeah, I will too. I'll be disgusted. Austin Hayes and Zach Bowling will be fist pumping, jumping for joy, doing jumping jacks just so they can tell everybody they said I told you so. Which I guess I'll be the third one because I'm calling it. But
I don't want Tennessee to lose, but I think they lose in the second round. Also.
I'm going down in flames with the Vols. I think the Vols beat Texas and advance on to the Sweet 16.
I hope you're right. Upset by Tennessee has been upset by lower seeded teams in each of the last 5 NCAA tournaments.
Yeah, that's what we talked about on the Hoop Southbound earlier. At some point, and I've talked to my uncle and several others about this, like Tennessee keeps putting themselves in, I think we've talked about this on here. Tennessee keeps putting themselves in good positions, 2 seeds, 3 seeds, 4 seeds. I mean, if you're a 1, 2, 3, or 4, you're in pretty good position and you're going to have some favorable matchups, especially early on. And they've just not taken advantage of it. And it's not even under Rick Barnes. You can go back. Day said this all the time. Go back to Pearl. Go back to Jerry Green days. Conzo Martin. I mean, it's all the same. But I think at some point, like the law of averages has to take effect here, and just take advantage of it. I think Tennessee's better than Texas. I think in this 4-team pod that we're in, Tennessee is the best team in that pod. And I think Tennessee uses that loss to Mississippi State and it lights a fire under them and they advance to the Sweet 16 next week.
I'm not using this as a point to dog on Barnes. I just think this team was built for regular season play to the point I'm making is they can play on Tuesday or Wednesday, get a couple of days rest, and play on Saturday. And then they do great. But with this being so fast-paced and everything, and I think whenever this team is in the limelight, sometimes it shits the bed. And that's the reason why I think we don't do good in March. And that's my reasoning behind it. I don't think it's going to be a coaching malpractice that gets Tennessee beat. It's going to be the 4-minute droughts of not scoring. It's going to be getting Adu in foul trouble or Awaka in foul trouble. And Mississippi State just gave the blueprint to beat Tennessee on Saturday. If you out physical us, you're probably going to beat us. And that's my reasoning behind it. I'm going to go on record and say it's not Rick Barnes' fault. So I don't get nailed to that cross next week.
So why do y'all think when it comes to this I don't want to say this team because this team's different than
Oh, it happened with Grant Williams and Schofield.
I mean, but
and all that.
why is that? I mean, why is that? I mean, it's something different every year, whether we run into Sister Jean or Oregon State or whoever it may be. I can't remember. I'm starting to get frustrated here just thinking about it. But I mean, it's something different every time. It's Purdue in the Sweet 16 when we didn't foul and they gave him a 3-point shot and then they win it in overtime. I mean, it's always something. I mean, but what is it? I mean, is Barnes and them not getting the guys ready? Do they just think they can show up and play? Like, I mean, what is it? I don't understand.
Sometimes, here's the thing. And these aren't kids that we're talking about. I want to go on record and say these are not children. This isn't high school sports. These are grown adults that some of them are getting paid to be out there to play. Sometimes it's like the mentality of it is too big for them. And like, I remember seeing the faces of the players after halftime that Mississippi State game, and they were already defeated, man. Like Ziegler looked like he was scared to death. So did Connect. I don't know. I don't know if it's. I know we've joked about this before, and I've said it, but like Barnes is a guy that he gets players to develop. He does a great job doing so. Meshack is a great example of that. I think Ziegler is a great guard right now. Obviously with his accolades and his awards that he's won, but man, sometimes he just goes lost. Like you can't do that in high competition basketball. You have to be 110 miles an hour the entire time. And, the shot may not fall, but you have to go on defense and do the same thing. And you can't turn the ball over. And it's sometimes when something doesn't go right, if one thing in the game doesn't go right, it affects 3 other things. And then it's just a perfect storm from there. That's my opinion.
So you all don't think Dalton Connect can be Carmelo Anthony 2003 Syracuse and carry Tennessee in this tournament?
Well, no, because Carmelo was an 18-year-old African American and Dalton Connect's 23 and Caucasian. So
what does that have to do with it?
Everything.
He can't be the same because he's not the same.
I didn't say he was Carmelo Anthony. I said, could he do what Carmelo Anthony did and be that? Could he be Tennessee's Carmelo Anthony and carry Tennessee through this tournament?
Here's the thing.
I was just joking.
I know. I'm just saying, like, can he be that person?
I think for us to have tournament success this year, he's going to have to score 30 points a game. Because if he doesn't, it's like everything else falls apart. Now, you can say, what was the game where the rest of the team showed up and he had 15 points? What was that? The Alabama game? Okay, that's one time. But if he's on, it seems like everybody else is. And if he's not, then it's not good. This team could go to the Final Four. This team could lose to Texas. I mean, if you take the last 6 ball games. And to be honest with you, like, they didn't look great against Auburn and Alabama. They won those games, but like there was a lot of miscues and stuff, and the 50-50 ball is the reason why we won those games, in my opinion. But then you turn around and lose to Kentucky, and you turn around to lose to Mississippi State. I'm telling you, the 4-minute droughts and our inability to guard the perimeter, I think is what's going to kill us.
We haven't had those droughts this year. We just haven't had that. You can go back and look. I see Harbin's face.
It's been a lot better than what it was.
I can promise you it's been a lot better.
Yeah, it
Brother,
has.
we scored 19 points in the first half on Friday.
I'm talking about the whole season. You're talking about one game.
I'm talking about relevant stuff. I'm talking about shit that happened 2 days ago.
I understand that, but you look at the whole body of work, and we have talked. I mean, last year they would go on what 4, 5, 6 minute droughts. We've got a guy that shoots you out of that this year. Now I know they didn't on Friday, but for the majority of the season, they've not had that issue.
Yeah.
Their issue
Going
this year is getting pushed around.
Going back to your original question on if Dalton Connect can put us on his shoulders and make a run, the short answer is yes. He definitely can, because we've seen it. You know, Auburn, Kentucky in a loss, countless games. I'm not gonna name them all. But I don't think the key to success is him dropping 35 a game. If he does, great. But I mean, we saw a little over a week ago he dropped 40 and we got beat at home. You know, I mean, there's 5 guys on the court for each team. We can definitely win games where Connect scores 14, 15. But it's a matter if everybody else gets in a scoring rhythm early. If Adu makes a couple of his first few shots, Ziegler the same, Meshack hits a couple shots. Where we get in trouble is when we score 4 points in the first 6 minutes of the game and everybody clears out and says, "Here you go, cream. You know, get us out of some trouble here." That's where we get in trouble. Now, if he's on, he has the ability to take over a ball game. We've seen that. But I don't think there's a cookie cutter key to success. Hell, he could score 12 points, but if Ziegler, Adu, if Vescovi miraculously finds his shot,
Triple J.
Triple J is the major key. We've preached it since November. Triple J and Adu are the X factors to this game. You know you're going to get production out of Connect. You know you're going to get production out of Ziegler. If Adu gets a double-double, and if Triple J gets somewhere between the 8 and 12 region, we're going to win. It doesn't matter who we're playing. That is the key. But you have to get them involved early. That way they have confidence going forward. And if that happens, it doesn't matter if Connect has 13 or 33. But y'all have watched just as much basketball as I have this year. It's way easier said than done. If Adu gets bullied like he did against Tolu Smith twice, we're done. Triple J no shows like he has a few times. We're done. We're not a one-man band. I'm tired of people saying that. But when the supporting cast doesn't show up, there's a very good chance that we will be packing.
So my two besides, let's throw Connect out. I think it's Adu and Zakai Ziegler. Zakai Ziegler did not play very well at all until the last 15 minutes of the game against State. This guy on Twitter, Billy_stats, posted this. In 5 of 7 losses, Adu failed to score double digits. In 6 of the 7 losses, he attempted less than 10 shots. Tennessee was 18-2 when Adu scores at least 10 points or more. He was non-existent. It said also, furthermore, Vols are 12-1 when Adu takes at least 10 shots a game. He was not. He was non-existent Friday against Mississippi State. And I think in some other losses this year, he was in that same boat. So they got to get him involved early. And Ziegler can't turn the ball over. He had 4 turnovers and 2 assists against Mississippi State. He just can't. Your point guard can't do that. Guards win games in March, and he cannot do that. If he plays like that, they will lose. They will lose early. I will call it right now. If he plays poorly, they will lose. Dalton Connect can't bail him out of everything. He's got to have a little help.
I mean, if you get outscored 42-14 on points in the paint, anybody's going to beat you.
Yep.
And it don't matter. I mean, it don't matter if your point guard plays an A+ game at that point.
Yeah, I mean, those two are they've got to contribute. They've got to play how we've seen. I mean, for the majority of the year, they played pretty well. I mean, Zakai Ziegler is all SEC. And we didn't even talk about that on here. Dalton Connect, Player of the Year, First Team All-American. Yeah. Zakai Ziegler was SEC Defensive Player of the Year, First Team All-SEC. I mean, it loaded. They just got to play Tennessee basketball, and I think they do in the first two games. And if they move on, we'll talk about that next week.
Yes, to be honest with you, if you look at this bracket, I don't think Tennessee should lose a game until they play Purdue.
I think it sets up pretty well for them.
Elite Eight.
I mean,
it does too. But last year it set up perfectly for us too, and we didn't do it. And I know last year don't have anything to do with this year, but I'm just snake bit, I guess. And until I see it, I'm not going to believe it.
Valid.
Fair enough. I've said it all year. I believe in this team, and I think they've got the makeup, and I just think when they're playing their game, they can do it. And
boys, when we're playing our game and we're Tennessee basketball, there might be 3 teams in that bracket that can beat us if they're playing their best basketball. Like if Tennessee plays their best basketball the way they can, they're a Final Four team. But plenty of teams get beat.
It's funny you say that. Before we started recording, Jay Williams, I think I texted y'all, he picked Tennessee versus UConn in the championship game. Wally Zerbiak on CBS has Tennessee versus UConn in the national title game. There was another guy on there. I'm not quite sure who he was. He has Tennessee in the Final Four losing to Kentucky.
Dick Vitale had that.
Oh, did he? So there's a lot of the.
I just don't see the Kentucky thing. I don't see it at all. I mean, they're in that Houston bracket. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I know they score a lot of points, but did anybody? I mean, they beat us, and they had to shoot 60% to do it or higher.
They shot really well.
So I just don't see it. I don't understand it. Like at the end of the day, when these games start and the ball tips, rankings don't matter. What you did 20 years ago don't matter. Ken Palm don't matter. None of this crap matters. It's who scores more points on the scoreboard when the clock hits 0-0-0.
I will say I'm big on the analytics part of it, but that's over with now. I mean, we're in the tournament. You can't talk about analytics. The analytics sets you up for where you're at now. And,
yeah, exactly.
So I'm done.
I'm with you on that. I think KenPom is a great way to measure more so than the rankings, because the rankings are just some jerk off that went to Harvard that's putting us in a ranking thing. I mean, I love the KenPom stuff, but it's over with now, like you said.
Is there, I don't know if y'all have had a chance to peruse the whole bracket, but is there any other games across the field that intrigue you going into this tournament?
I think if Auburn and UConn meet, I think that's going to be a pretty good ball game. I really think, and I'm not a Bruce Pearl homer, so I don't want to hear that shit, but for them to be, Ken Palm, 4th in the nation, and for them to win the SEC tournament, and for them just to get thrown into that UConn bracket, they weren't rewarded. Let's just say that.
I think I said this a couple weeks ago. Ken Palm has had Tennessee and Auburn as the top 2 teams in the conference all year long.
Yeah.
And a lot of people doubted Auburn because they had, Harbin talked about it. They had one quad 1 win. coming into the SEC tournament. And so I saw this stat too, that win against Mississippi State, I think they won by 7. That was their first single digit win of the season. All their other wins had been by 10 plus points. I thought that was kind of crazy, but
I know like a bunch of people around here hate Bruce. Bruce is a good coach.
no, he's a great coach. I can't stand his son.
Yeah, his son's a prick. But the thing about it is, if you were in that situation, what would you say? I try to flip the script. I would say the same thing.
Harb, any games? Oh, sorry, go ahead. Harb, any games stand out to you?
This game isn't gonna, feed villages, but I think it could be a very good basketball game. I'm eyeballing Nebraska and A&M. I think that game is going to be really good.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to watching that. And to be 100% honest with you, the winner of that could give Houston some damn trouble. I expect Houston to bounce back after what happened. But, things could happen. I really do think that South region as a whole is an absolute gauntlet, though. I really do. You got in order, you've got Houston, Marquette, Kentucky, Duke, Wisconsin. But after that, you've even got Texas Tech, Florida, who's playing their best ball of the year right now. We discussed Nebraska and A&M.
Got Longwood.
Longwood, true.
What?
You got James Madison, who's 31-3. The playing game between Boise State and Colorado is going to be a banger.
Stop calling it a play-in game. I hate that.
It is a playing game.
They're already in the tournament. How's it a play-in game?
They're not in the official bracket of 64. It's a playing game.
It's a 68-team field. They're in the tournament.
You can't make a 68-team bracket, so it's a playing game. All right,
yes, you can.
Done discussing that.
Yes, you can.
No, it's a playing game. That's what they are. It's what they always will be.
While you're humming and hawing over there, my game, I got 2 games. They're both in the round of 64 or first round. Wisconsin and James Madison. James Madison's a really good team, 31-3. Watch out for them. And
did you see, while you're on that, did you see the funny thing about that game? It's Big Cat and PMT's alma maters.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I didn't even realize. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so they were doing like a live feed of like Selection Sunday, and they both were mad because it's their alma maters and they're going up against each other or whatever. So it's pretty funny.
Other game I've got my eye on is a 4-13 matchup in the West region, Alabama versus College of Charleston. I think Charleston can beat Alabama. They're a good basketball team. This is their second year in a row in the tournament. They're a good team. I think they could cause a little heartache for the Crimson Tide. I don't think Alabama's playing very well at all. We talked about that last week. They're not playing very well at all right now. Of course, different season here at this point, but that's 2 games that I'm got my eye on. I liked Harbin's pick of Nebraska, Texas A&M. I think that could be a good one.
Yep.
2 pretty even teams. All right. You boys got anything else before we head out?
What's the baseball team shit in the bed today? Terrible.
Yeah, lost a series at Alabama, 2 out of 3.
Yep.
Alabama's a good team, so
they are.
At least they didn't get swept.
Lady Vols softball's looking good.
They swept lowly Missouri this weekend, so they're off to a good start in conference play.
Did y'all see where Karen Weekly tweeted after the game?
Yes.
Love it. Lady Vols are playing Green Bay in the tournament basketball.
Yes.
Wish them best of luck. Please guard a wide open 3-point shooter. If you have 4 seconds left, down by 2. Yeah.
Non-UT related. We're recording Sunday night. The Players Championship concluded today.
What a
I don't know.
finish.
Did Scheffler win?
Yes, he did.
Nice.
For those of you who didn't watch, if you did, your stomach churned at the end. Scheffler was 5 back today.
Yeah.
He was 5 back going into the final round. He shoots 64, 8 under. Just an absolute clinic. When that dude's putting,
He's
everybody's playing for
unstoppable.
second. Everybody's playing for second. When he's putting, it's the closest thing we've seen to Tiger Woods since then. That's a crazy statement, but I stand on it. It comes down to 18. Scheffler's the clubhouse leader. Brian Harmon, Shoffley, and Wyndham Clark all have looks at it. Funny thing is, Wyndham Clark had the same exact putt that Harmon had in the group before. Harmon backed off of it, underread it. Wyndham Clark putts it from, I don't know, what was it, probably 20 feet?
I think it was about 18, 20 feet.
Yeah, and it's tracking. If it goes in, there's a playoff, and it might be the nastiest lip out from that range I think I've ever seen. Under the circumstances, losing the unofficial fifth major on the ball literally went over 50% into the cup.
Yeah, half of it disappeared. It was crazy.
And it completely horseshoed on him. And doing that from 20 feet is hard to do. Just sickening, which I have my opinions about Wyndham Clark. But that was a crazy ending. Scotty Scheffler, the first guy in over 50 years to go back-to-back at the Players. That's a crazy stat, in my opinion. Tiger never did it. Rory hadn't done it, But incredible finish. Golf season is back in full swing. No pun intended for Netflix fans. And right after we cut down the nets in early April, we get the best theme music in sports.
Just great. The NCAA March Madness theme, just fantastic, and then it goes right into the Masters theme. Just amazing.
I got a buddy up in Virginia that's going to cook at the Masters. Nice. They have like 16 chefs they have on call that come back every year, and he's one of the 16, and he's actually one of the 4 that's doing the Players dinner before it starts too. So nice. It's pretty cool. I'll see if I can get some pictures to share.
What did Ron put on his invite, Harbin? Wasn't it live guys not allowed or something like that?
No, he said for all PGA
or
guys.
PGA guys, I'm sorry.
Meet me on the 9th green
at 9 o'clock. Wear something nice.
Yeah, wear something nice.
Classic.
Have y'all seen that? Is it AT&T commercial or something like that with Colin Morikawa and Shooter McGavin?
I haven't seen it yet. I'll have to look it up.
It's corny as hell, but if you like Happy Gilmore, it's pretty funny the first couple times you see it. Morikawa's punching out of the woods and he hits it off a tree, it goes in the water. Well, an alligator pops out and spits it out and it goes in the hole. And then Shooter's watching from the stands and he's like, "You gotta be kidding."
No.
Exactly. It's pretty funny. But
well, it is officially March Madness season. Tennessee will tip off on Thursday night, 9:20 p.m. on TNT, former home of WCW Monday Nitro. And so it'll be a late night. So drink your coffee, drink a Red Bull or whatever you guys drink to stay awake, and get ready for it. It's the greatest 2 days of the year besides the Masters coming up. I'm excited. It's put up or shut up time. I said I'm going down in flames with the Vols, and that's what I'm going to do. I picked Tennessee to go to the Final Four on the Hoop Southbound podcast, by the way.
Hey, are we doing a bracket challenge for?
Yes. Good point. Check out our social media for a link to the bracket challenge. Whoever wins, it is for a gift card. It is for a gift card.
What's the buy-in?
There's no buy-in. You just join.
Oh, so niche. You're just going into your back pocket to buy a gift card?
Yes, sir. I'm doing it. So y'all just join and you'll get a gift card. We'll figure out where to. But you can listen to wherever you get podcasts. Look us up on YouTube, hit that or smash that like and subscribe button. For Big Montana, for Harb, this is Negative Niece. And we'll hopefully see you next week on the YY8 podcast, getting ready for the Sweet 16.
Sweet 16.